he's just standing there and just shooting, and he's got a vantage point, and here's his mate coming up right now. It's just
yeah. There's been a lot of discussion in the wider Australian media about the amount of time that it took the police to arrive. There will be a lot of questions of the Australian government. The community, I think, has been warning that something like this is coming, and it's warned again and again and again. And the Australian government has simply refused to take the warning seriously.
Good friend of mine, Josh Coonan, is Australian. Okay, it's good to have you. You're a little bit on a delay. Josh, tell me a little bit about this attack and what you know about it, and what you know about the people that were hurt today.
Well, Yishai, the details are still coming to hand. What we know so far is that this attack was perpetrated by two terrorists. One of them is a 24-year-old from Western Sydney. One of the terrorists was a citizen of Pakistan. The other is still somewhat unclear. 11 people have been killed, with excluding the terrorist, so 12 with one of the terrorists. The other terrorist is in a critical condition in hospital. Now, I know that people in the community expect that the number killed may rise. There are a number of people who are very severely injured, who are in hospitals throughout Sydney, and really, people I know are just praying for them to come through, and we're waiting for the meantime. Other than that, I'll just say that this is an event that's very well known in the community. It's something that I've been at many times in the past.
What's the event called? What is the event exactly?
It's called Kanuka by the Sea. It's an event that's held by Chabad, but it goes very far beyond Chabad. All the leaders of the Australian or the Sydney Jewish community would have been there. I know for a fact that a couple of them that I'm quite close to were there. It's an event that's also very open to the public at large. So if people want to come, obviously there is a registration process, but if people want to come and learn a little bit about Judaism, learn about the community, it's a great chance for them to do that. It's in a place that's very central, and it's something that happens year after year, has happened year after year after year, and until the last couple of years, I don't think anyone would have ever really imagined that anything could happen at an event like this in Sydney.
Okay, so you go down to the beach, right? And what happens? Like, you take off your shoes, you're on the beach, and there's a Hanukkah lighting, or what happens exactly?
You're not actually on the beach. There's a big public park just behind the beach. So you're in a grassy area on the park. There's a Hanukkah lighting there. There's free donuts as you come in. There are Hanukkah songs. There's short speeches. Usually there are some politicians in attendance as well. And
Go ahead.
It's just a chance for the community to come together. What you're looking at on screen right now is Bondi Beach. For those who don't know, is the sort of most famous beach in Australia. And that bridge is the bridge that people coming into the event would have taken to get there. The event would have been directly below it. So you can see that those gunmen have a good high point from which to shoot down, and the people below them would have been like sitting ducks. Obviously, I wasn't there this year, but my guess is that it would have been cordoned off, which would have made it easier for them to see exactly that, and also would have added to the panic and difficulty of people trying to escape.
So he's shooting at the people, and we saw images of people running, like all on the beach as well, just like the beach, and everybody's heading, I guess. Which direction is that? I don't know what direction it is, but in any case, they're taking out on the screen. It looks like they're moving to the right of the screen.
Yeah, they're moving to the right, which is south towards. They're moving towards the south. They're quite close to the end of the beach. If you were to go to the left, you would get to the end of the beach quite soon. What I've heard so far is that a lot of the people who were injured and killed were older people who couldn't run as fast. They've released the name of one Holocaust survivor who was murdered, as well as the Chabad rabbi, and we're waiting for the additional names. I've also heard that a 12-year-old girl was among the dead.
Right. Okay. So just it's great that you're telling us. Meaning to say it's the right thing to do. Still, I want to say we are not speaking officially. This is not an official news channel in that sense. That's fine. That's fine. That's good. We're just we're here on YouTube telling what we heard and what we understand. There's that. Look how long this terrorist is just standing there,
Right.
reloading and shooting from this vantage point. Now, some people are asking, Josh Coonan, some people are asking whether there was security. Now, I just want to make it again clear, we are not assigning blame here at this moment at all. But, you know, but what do you, just to understand the situation, do you think that there was security or enough security at this thing? Or do you think that the Australian Jewish community was like, no, this is not happening. It's not, that bad around here. Yes, there's, Muslims. Yes, there's jihadis, but, nothing's going to happen here. Which, do you think that's an exaggeration?
I do think that's an exaggeration because the Jewish community in Australia has been through 2 years of very, very high levels of anti-Semitism, certainly much more than anything they've ever experienced in the past. Now, when I lived in Australia, there was always security at events like this. And a lot
Armed
of the
security?
they were armed. Not all of the security guards were armed, but some of them were definitely armed. But I think that it's just incredibly difficult to defend terrain like this. I know the terrain fairly well. It's very, very open,
Right.
and there are a lot of different approaches that someone wanted to do.
This guy's just standing there. I'm just watching the long version of this. He's just standing there and just shooting, and just he's got a vantage point, and here's his mate coming up right now. It's just
Yeah.
they ran down there. I went towards the people. It's unbelievable to watch this. It's painful to watch. It's very painful. Here in Israel, they would have probably by now, certainly by now, been shot back at. But in the meantime, now they're starting to take cover. I guess there's somebody shooting back at this point. Do you know anything about the neutralization? What happened there?
The only thing that I know for sure is that a Muslim man, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, was the hero of the day who managed to disarm one of the terrorists with his bare hands and actually got shot himself in the process. I know that there's been a lot of discussion in the wider Australian media about the amount of time that it took the police to arrive. I don't know what the truth is there, but I know that it's a topic that's come up, that there have been accusations that police officers
Here we just saw, I'm just pausing the video. We could just see the first time that a bullet has hit one of the two terrorists. He just went down. Now the other terrorist turns around and he's shooting now in the other direction, maybe the direction that the bullets against them are coming.
Mm-hmm. Right. There have been questions asked, as I said, of the police. There will be a lot of questions of the Australian government. The community, I think, obviously there are different views within the community, but there's been overall an enormous amount of frustration over the last 2 years, and that the Jewish community has felt that it's been warning that something like this is coming, and it's warned again and again and again. And the Australian government has simply refused to take the warning seriously. A few months ago, the Prime Minister actually commissioned a report into anti-Semitism. He handpicked the person to do the report, and when the report was presented, he then he received it, and the minister responsible then said that he would wait for a report on Islamophobia to be handed down, and we are still waiting for that report. As far as I know, no action has been taken, despite many.
Oh, meaning to say every time we have to talk about anti-Semitism, we have to make it equal for the sake of fairness. Now, by the way, we just saw the second terrorist get hit. Hard to know from which angle, where he got hit, who's shooting at him. I don't know, but he just got hit and he just went down. So you're saying that in order to talk about jihadism and anti-Semitism, we must talk also about Islamophobia to make it equal, so that's fair, right? Am I right? Do I understand that correctly?
Right. The Prime Minister commissioned a report into anti-Semitism because it's been obvious to everyone in the last couple of years that Australia has an anti-Semitism problem. And I think that the community was happy that he was taking it. It appeared that he was taking it seriously. They took preparing the report very seriously. A commissioner into anti-Semitism was appointed, someone the Prime Minister handpicked. But when the report was prepared, and I understand that report had many recommendations, when the report was prepared, one of the senior ministers in the government came out and said that they wouldn't be acting on it until a report was also prepared into Islamophobia in the interests of fairness.
Right.
And since then, from everything I hear, absolutely nothing has been done. That report into Islamophobia hasn't been produced, and none of the recommendations made to fight anti-Semitism have been implemented.
Okay, so we're watching a video of the terrorists being down. Wait. Oh, no. See, this is the shocking part. The guy is down. Here, hold on one second. Check this out. Then a guy in a T-shirt comes up, and he kind of waves the all clear. He says, come on down. Everything's okay. Come on down. Everything's okay. And he's telling what seems to be the security, whatever security personnel are there. And he says, everything's okay. But do I understand that who's this guy with his hands up right now? Who's the guy with the hands up? I don't know. It's a confusing video. I don't understand where he came from, this guy. But he seems to be. What's that?
If I had to take a guess, he might be part of the security at the event, but I really don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, there's all kinds of stuff happening there. Anyway, it's not easy to ascertain clarity. Now, Josh, okay, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, okay? And the elephant in the room is not jihad, because that's not an elephant in the room. We know about that. What I want to talk with you about is what is going to be the impact. What is going to be the impact on the Australian Jewish community? And you yourself are a bridge, a personal bridge between Australia and Israel, but you've chosen to come to the land of Israel for Zionist reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think that
Zionist reasons?
Right. Do you think you go ahead and explain it, but do you think that this event is going to impact the way Australian Jews, after 2 years of feeling anti-Semitism, now culminating in the murder of 11 members of the community, do you think that's going to change the way that Australian Jews feel about Australia? I already speak to people who say to me, yeah, if my kids want to make Aliyah to Eretz Israel, I'll be happy. I'm sending them. Good. Go. I'm asking you, do you understand this as a watershed moment, or do you understand it as being like, okay, it's a horrible thing that happened. We'll make a memorial. We'll bring Sefer Torah. We'll make a new thing, but we will rebuild. What do you think the real Australian reaction, Jewish Australian reaction to this is going to be?
I think there'll be a split reaction. I think that we're already at a point where a huge number of Australian Jews are no longer feeling as if they're welcome in Australia, or no longer feeling as if it's their real home. There are those who still want to fight, but who want to stay in Australia and fight. But my feeling, just from those I'm speaking to, is that the majority seem to be feeling as though it's a lost cause.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to speak to people who are Zionistic, so maybe it doesn't accurately reflect the entire community. But my feeling is that you're going to see a big uptick in people at least very seriously considering making Aliyah or moving to other Jewish communities. I would say New York, but there's obviously a fear of what's going to happen once Mandani becomes the mayor there.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're going to move to America, they'll move to Florida. But I mean, what's the point, for God's sakes? What's the point? Right. If you're already leaving Australia, and again, let's be honest, Australia is a very good life, a very comfortable life. It's a nice country. It's a lucky country. The weather is good and the place is nice. And there's some wealth there, and like you can just see it. It's just good living, Right. But if you're going to get up and go, you're going to go to Israel. Am I right?
I mean, I would assume, I think so. And I've heard in the last few months, people who had never really thought about making Aliyah, that were not yet quite getting on the plane, but were taking the kind of preparatory steps. I've heard of people buying property in Israel. So they're saying it's an investment, but it's not only an investment. Maybe I'll have to use it, when they would never have thought about that ever in the past. I've heard anecdotally of Aliyah fairs and events promoting Aliyah in Sydney and Melbourne that have had far more people than they've ever had in the past. And I would have to assume that this will push people who are already thinking that way to take that step. I would assume that there will be significant uptick in Aliyah from Australia. That
I
doesn't
want to
mean
show you.
everybody-
Right. I want to show you a video.
Yeah.
I want to show you a video of October 9th, Muslims in Australia. This is a true video of Muslims in Australia, October 9th, 2 years ago, after October 7th. Check this out. Watch this, everybody. All right, this is I try to keep this channel family friendly. Chance of F the Jews. There's the Sydney Harbor Bridge. There's look at it. Look at it. Look where this video is being taken at the
Right.
Opera House.
So Yishai, this video was taken on the night that the Opera House was meant to be lit up in the colors of the Israeli flag again. 9th of October, Israel's barely fired a shot back. And that day, the police actually told Jews that they should leave the center of the city early, which was unbelievable because I can't imagine what would happen if any other ethnic group, racial group, religious group were told, we're not going to protect you, you need to leave. It was outrageous. And then, and most people I know believe that the problems that Australian Jewry has faced ever since started on this day with the weak response of the police, who I don't actually blame directly. I think the instruction came down from those above them, from politicians, but the weak response nonetheless, I think, is where I and a lot of other people think that the problems, the anti-Semitism really started from. There was a big debate in Australia politically about whether that crowd was saying F the Jews or the initial report was that they were saying gas the Jews. And then they came out with this.
Wait,
well,
what exactly is the difference? Like, how should I, what am I supposed to like? Oh, they didn't say gas the Jews. They said F the Jews. What's the,
then there was this big debate about what they said, and eventually they concluded they were saying "Where's the Jews?" and that was apparently much better.
For God's sakes, I got to tell you, I want to tell you, Joshua Kunin, when you see a jihadi, riot, you think to yourself, okay, this is happening in Cairo, it's happening in Yemen, it's happening in Iran, it's happening in Syria, but to see it happening next to the Harbor Bridge and the famous Sydney Opera House, it's just, you're just like, wow. Because to me, again, having been there twice and having special feelings from Australia. When I was a kid, I always wanted to visit Australia. When I made it to Australia, I was like, hey, I did a bucket list thing that I wanted to do. And I went to the Red Center, and I went to Surfers Paradise, and I went to Fraser Island. I went to Alice Springs. Later on, I went to Perth. I saw it, and I was like, this is a really, this is a godly, beautifully God-created place. Right. And to see it overrun with this darkness, it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking to see.
It is. It really is. And I don't think it's, it's not the average Australian. The average Australian is very, very much, the average Australian knows that this is a threat to their way of life as well.
Do they know it? Do they know it, Joshua Kunin? Or are they willing to look the other way? Do they know it? Does the government know it? Or has progressivism? Before you came on, I told a story about something that has happened in Bondi Beach and other beaches in Australia, is that it's much more dangerous to swim in those beaches because of sharks. because shark attacks have grown tremendously on these famous beaches. Why? Because if you ask the Australians, they'll tell you they used to shoot the sharks and push them away. And then they decided, because of progressivism, that, well, this is just as much the sharks' land as our land. And therefore, they've allowed the sharks to take over these beaches. And there's constantly these shark whistles or alarms, whatever it is. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the jihad. You're like, okay, well, maybe it's theirs. And they take over and you don't push them back. And so, you're saying the average Australian understands this is a dangerous to him. I don't know. Do you stand by that statement, or maybe there's a problem there in Australia about a values problem?
Well, you asked two questions, Ishai. You asked me about the average Australian, and you asked about the government. The government absolutely does not understand the problem. The government is interested in getting elected, and for the government, the best way to do that right now is to pander to the people doing this. It's the government has a couple of key constituencies, a couple of key districts in US terms where there is a strong anti-Israel vote, and it is pandering to them and refusing to take any action against anti-Semitism for political reasons. The Australian people, I think, realize that this is a problem, most of them. And I think that this attack will really drive that home, because Bondi Beach lies at the heart of Australia's Jewish community, Sydney's community, but it's also one of the most iconic sites in Australia. There isn't an Australian who doesn't know what that beach looks like. There would be very few Australians who haven't visited there. It is one of the first places that every tourist. So this would be, I think, to the average Australian, very clearly a place that they could have been at, that kind of experience that every Israeli has, where I could have been on that bus, I could have been at that mall. That doesn't exist in Australia, but after today it does. And we don't know for sure whether all the victims are Jewish or not yet. That's
right. Well, speaking of victims, so I wanted to at least give honor to Chabad emissary Rabbi Eli Schlanger, who indeed was murdered today in the Sydney attack. Let's just watch a short video from Rabbi Eli Schlanger, taken down today by this jihadist attack in Bondi Beach.
May you be inscribed and sealed for a year full of joy and happiness, prosperity, nachas from our children, and just happiness all around. I know it's going to be one of those good years, and we just have to usher it in. So make that effort. Come to shul tomorrow, everybody. Shofar around 11 o'clock. And if you can't make it, not because you're at work, because nobody works on Rosh Hashanah, but 4 p.m. at Bondi Beach, we will do shofar again. Wishing you all to be inscribed and sealed in the book of life, and happiness, joy, and lots and lots of goodness. Chag Sameach and Shana Tova.
Rabbi Eli Schlanger was saying that he was going to go down to the beach on Rosh Hashanah and blow shofar. And so this is Chabad of Bondi Beach. So this is what he did. And this sweet, beautiful rabbi was gunned down today. Joshua Kunin, did you know this man?
I didn't know him. He's an emissary of Chabad, so he probably arrived there after I left Australia. But I know many people who know him, who considered him a friend. And I've only heard outstanding things about him, about his kindness, about his dedication to the community and his work.
Rabbi Eli Schlanger is the man on the screen right now. He was murdered today, along with 10 other civilians, one terrorist. Somebody was writing, "My dear beloved brothers, please obey Hashem and go home to the homeland. The Bible says the hunters would be sent out for you to drive you home. My brothers, you finally have a homeland in Israel. Go home." And I think that's said lovingly. And that is a strong message here. Some people don't want me. I wrote that on Twitter in a loving way. And people have told me, that I'm not all right for writing that they need support. And I said, well, but I don't think Australia is safe for you. It is. What do you want me to say to you? You want me to lie to you? After such a thing, you want me to lie to you? I'm telling you the truth. I think it's dangerous. And I don't think the Australian government's going to protect you. And I think that you saw that wild mob of Jew haters. They're there. and nobody's going to do a damn thing about it. So, buy property. Now, I also had Joshua. I also had my good friend Dr. Jeff from Australia, from Melbourne. He said to me, "I've been buying for ideological reasons. I've been buying property in the land of Israel for many years, and it all went up. Melbourne property has gone down. You know about this? Melbourne property, has actually gone down. So that's what he said to me. So he said, it's good for your bottom line as well.
I did not know that, but doesn't surprise me.
Joshua Kunin, I'm sorry that I had to call you into the show today for such a horrible reason, but you are well positioned to talk about this. You're an Australian political analyst and also the owner of Real Israel Tours. You really fuse your love of the land of Israel and touring the land of Israel with your political understanding, your educational understanding. Prior to making Aliyah, you spent time working in Australian politics. Today, your company specializes in bringing leading opinion makers such as journalists, politicians, religious leaders to Israel, and especially from Australia. I think that you're going to have a lot of work in the coming days and weeks. I think there's going to be a lot more interest in understanding that connection. And so I want to give you a blessing that this, horrific bloodbath, horrible moment of a jihadist attack on the Jews of Bondi Beach will also bring opening of doors and better times. And I want to thank you for joining me, and happy Chanukah.
Happy Chanukah.